Grandma, please help.
The late-night phone call from my granddaughter conveyed the pitiful situation my daughter was in. Hurrying to my daughter's house, Amy found her emaciated daughter sleeping in the messy room.
Mom won't wake up.
Tearful eyes of my granddaughter. My daughter's husband seemed to have left her in this state and not returned. I will never forgive him who puts my precious daughter and granddaughter in such a situation. Trembling with anger, I took my daughter and granddaughter out of the house. My name is Sarah, and I'm 65 years old. Ever since my husband passed away from illness, I've been living alone. My simple pleasures of living alone include chatting with neighbors, taking daily walks, and tending to the garden. I lead a very ordinary and quiet life. However, when it comes to my daughter and granddaughter, I suddenly feel invigorated. For me now, the happiest moments are when my daughter Nancy brings my granddaughter Amy to visit. However, since my daughter's family lives far away, we only get to see each other about once every 2 months. While I wish we could meet more often, it's just the way things are. That's why I spend time preparing for that special day. From cleaning the house to managing my health to experimenting with new recipes, everything is done in anticipation of the day I get to see my daughter and granddaughter. I've decided it's okay to indulge on that day, and I secretly call it my reward day. The loneliness of everyday life becomes bearable when I think about the reward day that awaits me. I don't just want you to visit during vacations and New Year's, but I want you to come and see me every few months without fail. I told my daughter when she got married. This request isn't just to fill my own loneliness. My daughter, who resembles her late father and has a fragile constitution, has always been prone to health issues since childhood. That's why I want to see her regularly and check on her well-being with my own eyes. Of course, we stay in touch regularly through phone calls. Recently, I prompted her to contact me through email, and she called me when she had some free time. Thank you for the call. It's getting colder, but you haven't caught a cold, have you? How's your health? My daughter remains a child to me. She's just like when she used to frequently have fevers as a child, so I always worry during seasonal transitions. My daughter responds to me, laughing and saying I worry too much.
Don't worry too much, Mom. If anything happens, Michael is here. Amy is also doing very well. How about you, Mom?
In response to my daughter's question, I proudly replied, I'm doing well too. My son-in-law, Michael, works as a salesperson for a trading company. He's a tall, slender, and very kind-hearted young man. He and my daughter met through mutual friends in the neighborhood and got married after dating for a while. Now that my husband is no longer here, he's the only male presence in our home. Like my daughter, I also rely on my son-in-law a lot. One day, during a typical weekday afternoon, I received an unexpected call from my daughter. It was unusual for her to call without my prompting. With curiosity, when I answered, only to be surprised that it was my granddaughter, Amy, on the line. She remembered the passcode to her mother's smartphone and unlocked it herself. First graders these days are amazing. I praised, but Amy's tone indicated something more serious.
Grandma, Mom is really sick and in a lot of pain.
Her voice was unusually very small. It seemed my daughter was asleep in bed, and Amy was speaking softly to avoid waking her. She's such a considerate child. It's okay, Amy. Grandma will take care of it right away. I reassured her gently before ending the call. Immediately, I called my son-in-law. He was probably at work, but it was an emergency. After several attempts, he finally answered. He seemed surprised when I mentioned Amy's call.
Amy called you? I understand. I'll go check on Nancy right away.
In the evening of that day, I received a call from my son-in-law, who updated me on my daughter's condition. Apparently, she had developed a slight fever and spent the day resting. He apologized for causing concern, mentioning that their granddaughter had made a bit of a fuss.
She's asleep now, so we'll let her rest for the day. Sorry for worrying you.
Michael said, expressing his intention to continue taking care of my daughter. It was reassuring to know that he was by my daughter's side, offering support. I thanked my son-in-law and ended the call. A few nights later, just as I was about to go to bed, I received a call from my daughter at a late hour. Answering the call, I found my granddaughter, Amy, on the other end once again. Her voice trembled, as if she were crying.
Grandma, help me.
Her voice instantly woke me up, and I sat up abruptly. Amy explained that her mother was still asleep and wouldn't wake up. Feeling helpless, she reached out to me for assistance. When I inquired about my son-in-law's whereabouts, Amy informed me that he wasn't home.
Dad can't come back. Grandma, please, help us. Hurry.
This was serious. While calming my granddaughter down, I quickly got ready. Amy reassured me that her mother seemed to be breathing, even though she was still asleep. I rushed out of the house and hailed a taxi. There was no time to think about late-night fares or anything else. Arriving at my daughter's house, I was greeted by my pajama-clad granddaughter rushing towards me, clinging to me desperately.
Mom. Mom.
Holding my granddaughter close, I turned on the lights in the room and was shocked by the sight before me. The room was in complete disarray. Lunch containers, empty cans of alcohol, and other debris were scattered around, with barely any signs of cleaning. And my granddaughter, clinging to me, didn't look well kept either. Her hair and nails were overgrown, clearly lacking care. In the bedroom I entered with my granddaughter, my daughter lay emaciated, her appearance drastically altered. "Nancy, are you okay?" I rushed to my daughter's side and checked her pulse. It was shallow, but she was breathing, which brought some relief. However, her forehead felt burning hot. Something had to be done immediately. I quickly arranged for an ambulance and waited for its arrival. During that time, as I tended to his unwell wife, I couldn't help but wonder where my son-in-law had gone in the middle of the night. When I asked my granddaughter about him, she shook her head vigorously. Then, without saying a word, she handed me her mother's smartphone. On the screen, I saw a WhatsApp chat conversation. It contained messages from my granddaughter to her father, reporting her mother's condition and pleading for him.
Please come home quickly.
In response to her distress call, my son-in-law's reply was just one word:
Drinking.
After that, my granddaughter continued to send messages asking him to come home, but he ignored them. That's probably why she contacted me.
Dad didn't come back.
My granddaughter's tearful plea resonated in the room. Just witnessing her anguish was heart-wrenching. What a despicable man he must be. He seemed unwilling to respond to his daughter's SOS from her mother. It was absolutely outrageous. After receiving medical attention at the hospital, I decided to bring my daughter and granddaughter home with me. My granddaughter, feeling safe under my protection, began to slowly recount her father's behavior. His responses on WhatsApp and his actions, as told by my granddaughter, were completely different from the man I spoke to on the phone with my daughter on a regular basis. The next morning, there was an incoming call on my daughter's smartphone. It was from my son-in-law. Since my daughter wasn't feeling well yet, I answered the call. However, it seemed he didn't realize it was me on the line, as he started speaking one-sidedly.
What the hell are you and Amy doing out at this hour? Where's my breakfast? Hurry up and come home to make it.
What arrogant language. It was completely different from how he usually spoke to me. Oblivious to my astonishment, my son-in-law continued.
Are you even listening?
I am not Nancy. I replied in one word. Then, my son-in-law muttered.
Oh, are you Sarah?
It was clear he realized his mistake. He fell silent for a few minutes, then hesitantly asked about my daughter. It's too late, I said. I could sense my son-in-law's shock. He knew my daughter wasn't well, yet he had left the house. He must be terrified of my words. Michael, I'm disappointed in you. You've been lying to me, pretending there was no problem. Nancy and Amy, have they suffered because of you? Last night, I heard from my granddaughter and my daughter, who had regained consciousness. It turns out my son-in-law had quit his job and let my daughter work while he got addicted to gambling and roamed around for fun. Moreover, he had accumulated a huge debt and left the repayment to my daughter, while he pretended not to know anything about it. My daughter and granddaughter stayed with me overnight. My daughter was really in a dangerous situation. And your child, covered in bruises, it's all because of you. I will never forgive you, I told him sternly. Apparently, my son-in-law often raised his hand against my daughter. I interrogated him rigorously. In response, my son-in-law desperately tried to refute me.
That's not true. I didn't do anything like that. Please believe me. Yesterday, I had an important business dinner and couldn't come home.
Until yesterday, I might have easily been fooled by my son-in-law's words. But things are different now. I had confirmed my daughter's condition with my own eyes, and above all, there was indisputable evidence. Amy was recording a video. You hitting Nancy. She's really clever. She was trying to protect her mother in her own way. Recalling the hidden footage, tears of frustration welled up. My son-in-law's merciless behavior towards my daughter, who was cowering, was unbearable. I couldn't even bring myself to watch the entire video and stopped halfway. You're at home, aren't you? I'm going to report you to the police now. There's no use running away. My son-in-law desperately apologized, but I ignored him and hung up the call. The granddaughter, who had been listening to the conversation from a distance, ran over and clung tightly to me. After ending the call, I hugged both my granddaughter and my daughter, who was lying beside us.
I think somewhere deep down, I was hoping that Michael would return to his old self someday. But as I endured and endured, I found myself going to a point of no return.
My daughter apologized tearfully. It seemed she had been pretending that everything was fine to avoid causing me unnecessary worry, which ultimately allowed my son-in-law to behave recklessly. It was truly lamentable. When I suggested divorce, my daughter nodded silently. My son-in-law would likely be sued for his mistreatment of my daughter from now on. I had no intention of showing him any mercy. From now on, I had to protect my daughter and granddaughter. Afterwards, my daughter filed complaints about the mistreatment she had endured from her husband, and his guilt was established. He was sentenced to a fine, the divorce was finalized, and claims for compensation were made. He would now have to slowly repay the large debts he had accumulated from gambling and the compensation. With a criminal record, what kind of job would he be able to find? I hoped he would lead a regretful life filled with hardships. As for me, I decided to invite my daughter and granddaughter to live with me at home. With my care reminiscent of her childhood, My daughter's health was gradually improving. Time would surely heal the wounds of her heart, which had been hurt by a terrible man. From now on, I want to spend each day bright and happy with my daughter and granddaughter by my side, just like we used to in the past.
My name is Remy, a 45-year-old part-time housewife. Despite being exhausted from work and household chores every day, life was fulfilling. However, recently, my husband Taylor has been cold towards me, making me wonder if I did something wrong. Additionally, our 20-year-old college student son, Pashik, also stopped talking to me, making me think it's another phase of rebellion. Even though my son had become a well-behaved and good child after his rebellious phase, he's now treating me coldly at this age. So, even when I'm at home, I couldn't find peace or relaxation. One day, my husband and son expressed their desire to go mountain climbing.
I was part of the Young Wonderful Club in my youth, and outdoor activities seem to be popular again. I want to start mountain climbing to improve my health. Sounds cool. I'm interested in that too. The food at the summit must be delicious, right? Remy, want to come along? Well, I wouldn't mind taking you along, haha.
Sure. I felt a bit happy thinking my husband was being kind to me after a long time. Although I wasn't very knowledgeable about mountain climbing, I thought it could be a way to relieve stress, so I decided to give it a try. However, on the day of the mountain climbing, I suddenly couldn't go due to work. As a result, my husband and son went on their own. They planned to climb the mountain for a day and descend for another day. However, even after 3 or 4 days, they didn't return. Then, I received a call on my smartphone from my in-laws. My mother-in-law, furious, shouted at me. Where are they right now? They should have descended from the mountain already. Because of you, our son and grandchild became missing. What have you done? You invited them for mountain climbing, didn't you? The one who invited them was my husband. I considered going, but, in fact, I couldn't due to work. What? So, I didn't go. I'm at home right now. What does that mean? Why are you at home now? Well, suddenly I got called for work, and I couldn't go. So, I asked them to go without me. I finished work and just came back now. Huh? But they said they would stop by here once they descended from the mountain. I prepared a lot of food waiting for them. Don't complicate things. I thought something had happened. Oh, but maybe they're not on the mountain. Maybe they're somewhere else. Huh? What do you mean by that? Maybe overseas. When I was cleaning the room earlier, I noticed that my husband and son's passports were missing. What? My mother-in-law was quite surprised and raised her voice. I also noticed earlier while cleaning that my husband and son's passports were missing, so I just thought they might be overseas. But even if they went somewhere, where could it be? If my husband and son went overseas, I became curious about their purpose. It would be fine if it were just a trip, but why did they mention mountain climbing? It might be some kind of camouflage, and if that's the case, there must be some suspicious reason. I wondered if they were planning something dangerous and were going to escape. However, I couldn't believe that my husband and son would do such a thing. A week passed, and still, my husband and son didn't return. It's summer vacation for my son at university, but my husband should have work. I wondered how they could be away from home for such a long time. Of course, I filed a missing persons report with the police, but they couldn't be found. Maybe they'd become missing for real. But where could they be? If I had gone with them, this wouldn't have happened, would it? What should I do? Despite being treated coldly, my concern for my dear husband and son didn't change, and I couldn't stop worrying. Even while working, I found my mind constantly occupied with thoughts of my husband and son, making it difficult to focus. As a surgeon, if I lose concentration, it could lead to medical mistakes. Every time before surgery, I had to gather my strength, holding back the urge to cry. On that day, I couldn't go because there was an emergency surgery. If that surgery hadn't come up, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Because I'm a surgeon, I couldn't help but think my husband and son might be in a dangerous situation. It felt like my chest was about to burst. One day, I heard a strange story from a friend. It was such an outrageous tale that my eyes nearly popped out. I got angry, thinking, those idiots. What on earth are they up to? I won't forgive them anymore. After that, I went to my in-laws' house, where both my mother-in-law and father-in-law were surprised to hear my story. Although my mother-in-law usually had a somewhat unpleasant way of speaking, she wasn't inherently malicious. Perhaps she was just not good at socializing. My father-in-law, despite giving off an intimidating impression, seemed like a good person at heart. So that's what happened. I'm sorry, Remy. It's okay. Because of you, I thought Taylor and Kashik were in danger. I'm really sorry. No, it's fine. They probably lied to both you and me.
Even so, what a ridiculous story. If that's true, those two are idiots.
Yeah, I was quite surprised too.
Well, they'll probably come back eventually, and when they do, let's give them a piece of our minds.
Several days later, my husband and son returned home, acting as if nothing happened. Since I had received a prior notice, I pretended to be calm. As they were much later than initially planned, my husband started making excuses.
Oh, we decided to climb other mountains too, so we changed the plans last minute. Right, Kashik? Exactly, we'd become addicted to mountain climbing. So, we climbed a lot. And we even went to hot springs afterward. Ha ha ha, we've become very healthy. It feels so refreshing. I feel so refreshed. We made some great memories.
Well, I guess you did something bad, felt refreshed, and made good memories. You were conducting some suspicious seminar overseas.
Why would you say that?
You held a volunteer event to help underprivileged children in the Philippines or something, right? And you organized a questionable seminar in a high-end tower condo in Salcedo.
Well.
And you were recruiting interpreters who could speak English and Tagalog, right? My friend accidentally applied because she thought it was a legitimate opportunity. She has a friend who is half Filipino and fluent in both languages. She works as a freelance interpreter through crowdsourcing. She applied for the job after seeing it, but as she listened to the details, she found it suspicious. Apparently, they asked her to transfer $15,000 as membership fees. She wondered why an interpreter had to pay such fees.
That's the person who backed out at the end, right, Isa?
Yes, you nailed it. Isa is my friend. My husband, who is a company employee, had mentioned wanting to start a business before. It seems he came up with the idea of a fraudulent business. He pretended to conduct charity work in the Philippines and recruited online interpreters, but it was full of suspicion. My friend Isa, being half Filipino and fluent in both English and Tagalog, applied for the job thinking she could contribute to her mother's home country. However, when they asked her for a substantial membership fee up front, she felt uneasy and reached out to her Filipino friend, Andy. Isa had lived in the Philippines until elementary school, so she had many friends there. Andy, who could speak some languages, helped her investigate the strange seminar my husband and son were organizing. It was hearsay, but the general idea was as follows.
Thank you all for sympathizing with our cause. If you want to donate more, please register on my account and transfer the funds to the account afterward. We accept donations starting from $500. Thanks to your support, we can help the underprivileged children. Andy, thanks for volunteering. You can leave now. See you, Andy. Be sure to join us in our business again.
So, Andy, who heard the suspicious story from my husband and son, informed Isa, who then tipped me off about it. The victims were apparently mostly Americans who, wanting to do something for underprivileged children, paid $1,500 in advance. Moreover, there were about 50 of them, totaling a whopping $75,000. There was a possibility they might send more money after returning home, increasing the amount of damages. That foolish son of mine. I won't forgive him. Because of you saying that you were invited by Remy for mountain climbing, I believed it. I ended up hurling abuses at Remy since you didn't come back.
Mom. Kashik. Despite being a university student, what on earth are you doing? There's something wrong with your head. Grandpa. Why are you here? I knew you'd come back, so I was hiding, waiting for you.
I had contacted my in-laws as soon as my husband called me, and I had them come to the house. I felt sorry for them, but I wanted to surprise my husband and son, so I had them hide in the closet. The husband and son began to panic, offering embarrassing excuses.
But we held the seminar overseas. Therefore, US laws don't apply. Yeah. We didn't commit any crimes in America. So, we shouldn't be held accountable.
Well, didn't you extort money from Americans in the US with prepayments, and later, while abroad, ask them to pay more upon returning? Wouldn't US laws apply in that case? Even if you committed a crime over there, you might be held responsible individually. Well, I'm not an expert, but either way, what you did was wrong. Why are you guys trying to justify it?
But we had no choice. I ran out of money.
What?
No matter how much you earn as a doctor, I thought if you found out I spent all the money and went broke, you'd divorce me.
Why did you end up going broke?
We went to nightclubs together, and seriously, the money ran out.
What?
We got too into it, and it was really tough.
It turned out that the foolish husband and son spent so much money at nightclubs that they ended up broke. Come to think of it, I had been feeling distant lately, and even when I tried to hold hands, I was rejected. They must have been fawning over young girls, giving them lots of gifts. The thought of a 45-year-old man engaging in such behavior with young and beautiful girls disgusted me. Moreover, it wasn't just a simple employee-customer relationship. They had developed romantic feelings and were doing various things outside the club. Astonishingly, both the husband and son had impregnated their favorite girls. It seemed that they had to earn money for hospitalization and child support, leading them to the idea of a fraudulent business. At this point, I couldn't help but think that their heads were in the clouds, and they must be exceptionally happy. I was disgusted with my husband and son, who confessed everything.
You idiots. What the hell have you done? You're no longer my son. Don't be so mad. I didn't do anything wrong. Remy is to blame for neglecting us and always working.
What?
You always say you're working, leaving the house late at night, right? That's why I got fed up.
But, didn't you marry me knowing I'm a surgeon? I'm working hard for the family and the patients. It's terrible. You probably knew I wouldn't be able to go mountain climbing because I've been busy with surgeries lately. Did you foresee from the beginning that I wouldn't be able to go?
Oh, yeah. I invited you just in case, trying to hide it from you. Well, it's not mountain climbing, though. You're always busy with work. Yeah, you don't care about us.
Wait a minute. You're the one who repeated a year and dares to say such things. I'm the one paying your extra tuition.
So what?
I won't pay the tuition anymore. If you want to graduate from college, figure it out yourself.
No, don't do that.
Don't come to me only when you need money. Ask your dad, then.
I can't. I got fired from the company.
What?
Actually, I was accused of harassing a young female employee, and I got fired.
Another shocking revelation came out. This foolish husband had already been fired from his job. So that's why he could stay overseas for an extended period without any worries. Spending money recklessly at nightclubs, impregnating girls, getting fired from work for harassment. It was giving me a headache. How could someone make such foolish decisions? This statement angered my mother-in-law, and things took a turn for the worse. She scolded my husband loudly and began packing his belongings in their bedroom. You're already dumped by Remy. Live around here or something? Idiot.
Wait, Mom, what are you doing?
I'm organizing your stuff. Can't you see? Look, is this fine?
Wait.
EW, you were going to such places. Disgusting.
Stop it.
You scumbag. You won't be allowed in our home again. Disappear from our sight.
That's right. Kneel down and apologize to Remy first. Then never show yourself in front of us again. W8.
Kashik, apologize too.
Come on, Granny.
Stop whining and kneel down. Thus, my husband and son knelt down facing me. They were sobbing, and it felt as if I were bullying them, which I disliked. I loved my husband, and I had taken care of my son. However, it was true that I couldn't give them much attention due to my busy job. But that didn't justify their criminal actions. I might have some points to reflect on, but I couldn't forgive my husband and son for committing crimes and destroying our family. My husband and son left the house with their belongings. I'm sorry for that time. I was truly out of my mind. No problem.
Sorry for jumping to conclusions. Be happy from now on.
Sure. Well, we'll be going. And so, my in-laws left. I was left alone in the house, wondering what to do next. First, I had to get a divorce from my husband. I didn't think I could rebuild anything with such a husband. After the divorce, I decided to relinquish my role as a parent and let go of my son. If my efforts in love didn't get through to him, then he wasn't worth worrying about. He was already an adult, and at this point, anything I did wouldn't change anything. After the divorce, my ex-husband paid me alimony for his infidelity. Being broke, having impregnated girls, and having lost his job, he borrowed money and gave it to me. My son dropped out of college and became a part-timer. Since he had always hated studying and even repeated a year, I thought it was fine for him not to go. Then, my ex-husband and son were sued for fraud due to their deceptive actions, facing serious charges. I felt a bit sorry for them, considering the substantial amount of the damages, around $100,000. The victims were probably furious, and while it might be wrong to be deceived, the ones taking advantage of goodwill were worse. I was relieved that my friend Isa wasn't fooled. I decided to forget about my ex-husband and son, focusing on being a surgeon. This story may have been quite dramatic, but life goes on. How was this story for you? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you. Well then, let's meet again in the next video.